Hello, everyone. I usually say welcome to Children's Hunger Fund, but I'm at your school, and this is exciting. Thank you. I see some familiar faces. I used to be a poverty encounter facilitator at Children's Hunger Fund for 4 years, so I might have been your tour guide. I'm not sure. I see some familiar faces, but to be on the other side, to be at your campus and to see all of you, what a blessing it really is, and to worship together as well. Well, I want to begin by asking you, I know you're going tomorrow and the next day and next week, but who has been to Children's Hunger Fund before in the past? Okay, wow, that's a lot of you, majority of you. Some of you maybe are new to the school, maybe you haven't been. Who has been through Poverty Encounter? It's an exhibit, if you remember. Okay, so a lot here, a couple here. Okay, so you go into an airplane and then you visit different rooms that look like different countries and you hear stories of children in extreme poverty. Well, yeah, that is Poverty Encounter. But I want to start off our time with a video. Everyone likes to watch videos, right? So let's start off with a video. The video is called A New Conversation. And you're going to hear a lot of stuff, a lot of different voices that pop up. And you're going to see all these text messages that go up. When you're hearing that video, I want you to think in your mind, think about one or two things that maybe you've thought or you've said in the past, okay? Okay, so we saw that video, right? Can I have some student volunteers just share, one or two of you, or two, what are your thoughts about the things that are said in the video? So I have some people in the back here. Okay.
So I thought that it's reality that I probably said all those things, but then I realized it's kind of sad because that boy was just there, and then it's we're so blessed. So yeah.
I thought it shows how ungrateful we can be today, and how we will sometimes not realize other people who are in need of stuff.
Wow, thank you for sharing. Now, the point of the video wasn't necessarily to make you guys feel guilty. That's not why I showed it. That wasn't my intention. But sometimes, in life, we fixate on the small issues that are right in front of us. And so sometimes it's good for us to kind of take a step back and to see the bigger picture. Would you say so? Yeah? To look beyond what's right in front of us, because sometimes those issues that we think are so big are actually quite small in comparison. And so many of you mentioned doesn't work, it's fine, that you noticed the boy, right? So he's a boy about 2.5, maybe 3 years old in Guatemala City, and he lives in a landfill. And you can see that he's surrounded by trash. Now, he was playing with something in his hand. Does anyone know or can guess what that might be? Yeah, it's like an old piece of gum. Maybe some of you are chewing gum right now. But it's an old piece of gum, and he's just kind of stringing that, and he's just twirling it around, and that's kind of what he does. It's his toy, in a sense. So you are hearing all of those things, and all of those things that are said, I've probably even thought those things or said them myself. Raise your hand if you've ever complained about the Wi-Fi being slow at Starbucks or a cafe. Yeah, pretty much all of us, right? Okay, put your hand down. Who complained or have said, the air conditioning is too cold, or the air conditioning is not strong enough, right? Probably last week we've probably said that because it was over 110 degrees here. Yeah. Some of us, we might have said, raise your hand, I have no clothes, and you have a closet full of clothes. Yeah, right? Okay, put your hand down. Or you opened up your refrigerator and said, there's nothing to eat, but it's not what we're craving. Yeah, we've all had those thoughts. Yeah, thank you for being honest, because we've all had those thoughts and said those things. And that was, it's the same for me too. I'm no different. But the reality is that in this world that we live, There are 7.9 billion people. And that's a huge number. I don't think we can fathom that, right? We think 1 billion in China, another billion in India, but we really don't know what that might look like. But when you think about poverty, and you're thinking about the fact that more than 10% of the world population, they live on less than $1.90 a day, it's kind of big to grasp. You know, you might look at it and say it's another statistic, but really, it's 800 million people that are just like you, but they live on less than $1.90. Granted, here in the US, you know, or in other countries actually, in developing countries, the $1.90 goes a little bit more, right? But even if you had $5 in the United States, you can't really buy much with that in a given day. Maybe you can buy some water, or go to the fast food restaurant and get something from the dollar menu, maybe a couple of pieces of fruits or vegetables, but you probably won't have a home. There's so many other things you need, car. And so for millions, 800 million people around the world, they live on just less than $1.90. And that is what is families in extreme poverty. So 1 in 9 people, they go to bed hungry at night. They go to bed on an empty stomach. Later, when we go home, or you know, we're coming back from school, we're probably going to have a snack, probably going to have dinner, and we probably expect it too, something that's just a warm, nice meal. But for many, I mean, 1 in 9 people, they don't have anything. They don't even know where their next meal will come from. And over 1 billion people in the world, they live in slums or informal structures. So over here, this is actually like a makeshift shelter that this family made in Uganda. And you can see that it's made out of wooden planks and scrap metal. And when it's rainy, you're just going to have rain that floods inside. The floor is just mud. When it's hot, you're just going to experience that. There's no air conditioning. When it's cold, you're just in the freezing cold. And something that I shared earlier today in the morning with the younger students is that one out of every 5 children in the world, they don't go to school. So that's about 260 million children. So I know, you know, you guys are high schoolers, middle school, high school. You've been in school for a long time, you know, more than 10 years, maybe 10 years. And I'm sure there are moments when you're like, oh, I just don't want to go to school anymore, you know. I just wish I could just work and like, who cares about the tests? We're not going to even learn what this is in geometry later in life, right? We might say those things, but really to be grateful and to think about what a privilege and what a blessing it is to be here at SCCS. I mean, this is one of the best schools that you guys get to be in, and you hear it all the time, but do you like actually believe it? You know, people tell you, wow, you get an education, and I just want us to think about those things. So in Poverty Encounter, some of you have come, but others haven't. You meet children, right? And nod your head if any of these children look familiar to you. Yeah, okay, some of you say so. The top left-hand corner in the red shirt, he is a boy, a 13-year-old boy. I know some of you are 13-year-olds. He lives in a dump yard in Guatemala City, and for hours and hours a day, he's going and picking up recyclables and trash to sell so that he can help his family eat. And that is his younger sister hugging him, and she is about 3 to 4 years old. The boy right below is a boy in Nepal in South Asia, and he is making bricks for about 12 to 15 hours a day in heat that is over 100 degrees. And he wakes up before the sun rises and after it sets, and their family make about 1,000 bricks on a given day, and that is their quota in order to pay back the money that they borrowed from a brickyard owner. So there are millions of children in child labor just like him, doing different work, but they don't go to school. And then you see that girl over there on the side. She actually went to school. She had a home. But there was an earthquake in Haiti so strong that it destroyed so much, and it actually led to the death of 250,000 people just because of that one earthquake. And so she's lost her school and her home, and she's beginning to rebuild her life. So these are just stories of children in extreme poverty. But I also want us to see them not as just children in poverty, but to see yourselves in them as well, because we have similar dreams, we have similar needs, wants, desires, we have families, we want friends, right? They're no different. They have likes and dislikes, hobbies just like you, and they're talented as well. It's just that they're living in a different situation in a different part of the world. But also in your own backyard, there are people that are struggling. There are children in America, in the United States, that maybe on the outside you don't know what they're going through, but at home they're struggling. So what do we do at Children's Hunger Fund? Many of you know about us. You've come volunteered. Maybe you know little bits and pieces. But if you were to sum up who we were in just one sentence, this is our mission statement. This is what we work towards. Our mission is to deliver hope to suffering children by equipping local churches for gospel-centered mercy ministry. It's a big sentence. It's a mouthful. But every word is put in there with an intention and a purpose. So what we do as an organization is we send churches across 30 countries, about 1,000 churches. We provide food and also other resources that might look like medicine, school supplies, disaster relief in countries like Ukraine. It could be finances or helping them build sustainability projects. But whatever the church needs to then help families, children and families in extreme poverty, that is our mission, to equip them. So why do we deliver home delivery? Why is that our model? Why can't people just come to a park and just get all the resources? Why can't they just come to the church? Why do pastors and church volunteers, why do they have to make the effort to go to someone's home? It's all because of relationships. In life, we need relationships. We don't walk this life by ourselves. And so when a church member, a volunteer, or a pastor, they go and they knock on that door and they're bringing that box of food or whatever it is, that is just a tool for them to open the door so that they can come and they can learn about that family, hear their burdens, pray with them, care for them. The meaning behind all of this is to form a relationship with them. And so churches come and they're providing. So we see these food packs. This is what you're going to be packing for next week and tomorrow and the next day, those boxes of food. And they bring it and they're happy and they receive the food. But ultimately, that food, once it's eaten, it goes away. And then they get hungry again, right? That medical supplies, it will be used up. The school supplies, it gets used up. But what is so important? Why do we have to go through the local church? Why can't it just be anyone that just gives them resources? Because the local church holds something so valuable, so precious. Can anyone guess what that is? Just yell it. What is it? Yeah, it's the gospel. It's the gospel. We hear it all the time. The gospel is the good news, right? You hear it constantly. But it is truly the good news and the best news. And they have the gospel. This is the only thing that can ultimately free them, not just out of poverty, physical poverty in this life, but it's really the freedom for eternity. And so they come and they share with them the gospel that Jesus Christ, he came. He's fully God and fully man, and he came into this earth, lived a perfectly sinless life, and he died on that cross, and he rose again, bearing the sins of all those who would come to believe in him, and in him alone can there be salvation. And that is a message that they say, and that is a powerful message that really changes lives. So we serve and we equip churches in 30 countries all over the world. You're going to see this video where all these different faces of the families that pop up in the different countries that we serve. And you're going to see that each of those families, each of those children, or it's fine, they are going to hear the gospel message. They're going to have a family that, or a church that loves them, a pastor that loves and cares for them. And that is what we do, and we're doing this across the world. So here are some of the countries, but I'm going to go to the next slide. Okay. So how does this apply to me, right? It's great. Children's Hunger Fund, you're supporting the different churches in the countries. That's great, sounds good. Okay, it kind of applies to me because tomorrow I'm going to go volunteer, next week I'm going to come volunteer. But really, first and foremost, let's think about, Is it true that you've put your faith in Jesus Christ? Is the gospel the best news for you? Or is it something, as we heard even as Joshua was praying, is it something that, it's like a label because you're here in SCCS, Santa Clarita Christian School. And who goes to church here? Not everyone, but yeah, some of us go to church, right? So because we sit in church on Sundays, or that we're in Bible study or small group, some of us, I would like to believe that everyone is saved, but some of us haven't surrendered to Christ. But I do want to say this, we're planning for tomorrow, and we talk about next week and retreat and all these things, but it's because we're young, right? We're young, and we have a future, and we can envision that future. For the seniors here, they're planning to go to college, and we're excited about that. And they're talking about their top schools that they're applying to and where they would like to get accepted. But even all that, let's think about right now. If I were not to be here today, would I be in heaven or hell? Would I be with the Lord, or would I be in utter destruction? Because really, if you're not in Christ, then you don't have a future for eternity. And so this is it's strong, but I mean, it's so important. This is the most important question you can ever ask yourself in your whole life. Because what is it? After college, you go and you get a good job, and then you get married and you have kids, and then life is so short, it's like a blip. But some people don't even get to that stage of marriage and children and living an old life. Their life ends right next week. Who knows? So that's the question. Have you put your faith in Jesus Christ? Have you surrendered? Because if it's not in Christ, it's in something else. It's going to be in your good works, or maybe your career, or your family, or whatever it might be. So I want us to think about that and think if I'm actually saved. And then, because ultimately, what lasts in terms of serving and loving others, it can only come through Christ and what he has done. And through him, our love can overflow to others. So what does the Bible tell us? Ultimately, it doesn't matter what Janet has to say. It doesn't matter what I have to say. What does the Bible say? So I have a little nifty index card with Bible verses. So Mark 10:45 says, "For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many." So isn't it humbling to think that Jesus Christ, he could have just let us be in destruction. He came and he sacrificed himself to serve and to save sinners like us. 1 John 4:19 says, "We love because he first loved us." We're incapable of just loving until he loves us and he saves us. And then that love overflows. And 1 John 3:17 through 18, "But if anyone has the world's goods and sees his brothers in need, yet closes his heart against him, how does God's love abide in him? Little children, let us not love in word or talk, but in deed and truth." So let's not just talk the talk, but let's walk it too. Out of gratitude and thanks to the Lord, let us give glory to him, and we do that through serving and loving others. So, is this true in your own personal lives? I want you to think about it and maybe consider that. How can I be the hands and feet? 1 Peter, let's look. 1 Peter 4:10 says, "As each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's very grace." Every single one of you, you have a gift. Some of you might be like, "No, I don't really have it." Or some of you might be like, "I have so many talents." But each one of you, you have a gift. God has given you a gift. How can we use it? Think about those things. How can I use it to serve others? Not for my glory, to get human approval and applause and glory, but how can I use it to then serve others? So let's think about our talents. Let's think about our resources. And our resource might not be financial, at this age, but it could be your time. It could be your time to reach out to those who are hurting. When you see even your classmates that are hurting, you can go up and you can ask them, "How can I pray for you? How can I come alongside you?" But also resources like what you're doing with your time tomorrow and next week. How you're going to help volunteer to help further the gospel. And the people, nowadays we have like influencers and stuff and like social media that connects us with everyone. But truly, you have a network of people in your friend group, your neighbors, your church. Maybe you could have a discussion and start to talk about poverty and even spiritual poverty and what that means. But also, how can you then come together and reach the lost? How can you come together and evangelize too and share the gospel in your own lives? So this is what you're going to do tomorrow. It's exciting. So I'm excited that you guys are coming. You're going to go and pack food packs, and you're going to be in also probably our volunteer center. And this looks familiar to you, right? Yes. So earlier we heard Natalie Clapper. She was saying, don't wear hats. Maybe because we're going to wear hairnets, that's why the hats won't really do as much. But this is what you're going to do. And you're going to notice that every single bag or box, there's these hearts around it. It's not just because it's cute and it's like, it makes you feel warm. There is a purpose. When a family receives the box or even a meal pack, they're going to know that that's the love that they're receiving. First of all, from the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and then from the church, and then from people who individually packed it, volunteers just like you who did that and used your time and your efforts to do that. So every single bag and box is packed with love. So tomorrow when you go, or even next year, next week, when you're packing it, don't just do it just for the sake of completing it, but have intention and purpose behind your volunteering because it means a lot. So we're going to watch this very last video, and I want this to be an encouragement to you. Okay, so the title of that video is You Deliver Hope. So I hope you're encouraged that tomorrow, next week, and even in your daily lives, how you serve one another, your parents, those around you, that you can deliver hope. And that it doesn't have to be a grand gesture. It could be something so small, but it could also be very powerful, like sharing the gospel to other people. And even considering in your own heart, is the gospel true in my life? So I encourage you to think about the things that were shared in the chapel, maybe discuss it with one another. Later, your parents are, I'm sure, going to ask you, how was school? And you're going to be like, usually, good, it was fine. But this time, maybe you could share with them and talk with them a little bit more about the things that, convicted your heart, if anything did. But I just want to end and say thank you so much for giving me your time and for listening.